People have used the mentally ill tag to manipulate me pretty much my entire life. They promise that they're going to help me, and they don't keep their word. They've done what everybody else does. You don't have to keep your word, do you? With Natalie in that situation, I need to go through all of these situations and tell you who was involved, basically block by block. These people weren't able to manipulate me by me being a monster and just looking for some sort of an excuse for revenge and wholesale slaughter. I'm sure that's a nice excuse for them after they realize that I didn't kill Natalie. Then they're like, well, we can't ever possibly admit that we were wrong. I got an idea. We'll just play victim. Oh my God, that'll totally work. He's a dude. He's called mentally ill. We get away with this manipulating, man. And I've heard so many fucking off the goddamn wall, crazy fucking alien conspiracy theory bullshit. Like, holy fuck, guys. These are human beings with human motives. Anytime that you go beyond that in your way of thinking, you're showing yourself to be a neurotypical. Believe me, I've got a very well developed imagination. But unlike most of you, I have the ability to separate fact from fucking fiction. The Illuminati don't give a fuck about me. The Illuminati don't give a fuck about Natalie. Aliens aren't gonna travel fucking billions and billions and billions of light years to come to planet Earth to try to frame me for fucking killing Natalie. A lot of the shit that you guys have in your head is seriously that fantasy. Not those ones in specific, but very much that off in fucking nowhere, floating in outer space. I've heard my whole life all these wives' tales about what's legal and what's not, and what is and what isn't, and what is and what isn't. And you know what I noticed? Whether something is legal or illegal depends on who you are. That's it, right down to a nutshell. It doesn't matter if you're a good person or a bad person. It matters your position in life. Everybody's got to be about the race, right? They always want to know, well, you know what? If I'm not in first place, at least I'm not in last. Look at those guys. You don't bother to mention that those guys were doing really well till you kicked them. You don't bother to say, hey, that guy was actually a pretty decent person at what he did and fucking outright and forthright until I whipped his horse in the face and flipped his fucking chariot. When we make it about a race, we make it a competition. And that's what we're dealing with here. Each and every one of these people wants it to be a competition about who's getting it first. Well, you should help me because I'm worse off than you. No, you should help me because I'm worse off than you. And I'm like, statistically, none of y'all are going to listen to me. And statistically, I'm really the one who's most victimized. You'll want to look at fucking statistics. Yeah, I fit all of the fucking statistics and criteria. All of them. The top 5 groups of victims in this country got nothing to do with color. The top five. It has to do with whether or not you were in childcare growing up. It has to do with whether or not you are mentally disabled, whether or not you are homeless, whether or not you are physically disabled. I mean, we don't even get to the point where color becomes a factor until like 7 or 8. And of course, you can do the numbers differently. Oh well, we'll just say that there was only a certain amount of Native Americans that were killed last year, and a certain amount of white people that were killed last year. See, there was more white people killed than Native Americans. Then you go, all right, well, how many more of these white people are there than Native Americans? Is it a grossly disproportionate number? Yes, it is. None of them more grossly disproportionate, however, than the disabled and the homeless. Many of the homeless are homeless because they're disabled. Many because they have physical disabilities. But they get fucked with just like everyone else and everywhere else. They try to push you on to the next city, the next town, the next place. They tell you this church will help you or that church will help you. And you go to the churches and you're like, I don't even know why I bothered. I've been to hundreds of these places and it ends up just being some jerkwad in a fucking chair who's going to say, we don't do that, we don't do that, we don't do that. You got to handle that through the sheriff's department. Or we do vouchers, but it's for like women and kids. There are a lot of services out there for women and kids. And there's a lot of women and kids that are women that have kids that when I talk about my experience, they're like, oh, well, they did this, 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 and this for me. Like, yeah, you're a woman with kids. Society is expected to take care of you and to help you. For us, if somebody like you decides to victimize us, society is expected to take your side. If you want to sell some sob story narrative because you want to get some free fucking labor out of somebody, like say you and your boyfriend got into an argument, you don't love each other, you're moving out. All right, well, I'll help you move out. I can do that. You're gonna play fucking head games about it and pretend like you were abused and you weren't. You don't need to do that. You don't need to tarnish that other person's name if it's not something they actually did. And if it is something that they actually did, if I'm going to be abused over it, I'm going to fucking say something. I'm not going to keep your fucking secrets. I have seen what keeping people's secrets does. It gets them killed. And it gets my other loved ones killed. And it gets strangers fucking killed. So, I guess after I ate my dinner here, these are cheap, $1.35 at the Anson's Texaco. But I'm gonna try to go through these situations, and I'm gonna tell you what was going on at the time, a lot of the people that I was dealing with, and why it is that, given the information that I had, I was making the best decision that I could. I did make the right decisions. Well, with the manipulation that was going on, it rather seemed as if I was. But by preventing that from being shown in court, it just looks like I'm fucking crazy.